position clear on that. And I would go back again to what we do agree on, that Afghanistan cannot be a place where Al-Qaeda can plan and train for and execute a terrorist attack. But we are faced with an enemy that is highly, highly mobile. And in some sense, it is almost as easy for them to train in Yemen as it is in Afghanistan. We see where was bin Laden not only finding refuge, but where he was killed, not Afghanistan, and Pakistan. So that's why I think we need a lighter footprint in Afghanistan as soon as we can reasonably do so, with a bias toward a smaller footprint, and then continuously disrupt Al-Qaeda and other transnational terrorists. They're not the only group who wants to attack us.
Fort Washington, Maryland, Wendy, Democrat. You're on with Congressman Scott Rigell, a Republican from Virginia and a member of the Armed Services Committee.
Yes, good morning. I'd just like to make a comment that I agree with President Obama's withdrawal plan. I'm happy that he is doing exactly what he said he would do last year when he said he would start the drawdown of troops in July. Now, to bring that home, I'd like to ask the congressman, when will we see a jobs bill come out of Congress, especially the House, because that's what a lot of them were elected to do, and not tax cuts, but a job creation bill.
Wendy, thank you. Thank you so much. And I appreciate the little segue over here to jobs. Every week I've served in Congress under this Republican leadership of John Boehner and Eric Cantor and others. We've introduced bills to create jobs. I'm a lifetime entrepreneur. About 25, 30 years, the first business that my wife and I started was a cleaning business, and we hired two people. She hired me, and I hired her. I think I was 22 or 23 years old, and we were the janitors, Wendy. So this has been my life, and I truly believe that reducing federal spending is in and of itself an act of job creation. We want to open up in a responsible way, an environmentally responsible way, the natural resources, to harvest the natural resources that we have here in America. $500 billion a year is flowing outside of our country to other countries who don't oftentimes share our values. And I connect the dots. Some of that $500 billion goes to Saudi Arabia. Some of that money then goes to Pakistan to fund these madrasas. That's indisputable. And I think that energy independence, and I think the President's given us rhetoric but no action. And there is a host of bills sitting there in the Senate, and I think that Senator Harry Reid is the biggest impediment to job creation of any single person in America. He sits over there and does not respond to all of these bills with kind of a righteous indignation, and yet they are there. And I know as an entrepreneur that these bills would move America forward, and I hope he, for the sake of the American people, I hope he moves.
And you started off in the cleaning business, but you ended up with an auto dealership.
Yes,
is that correct?
I did. Yeah, my wife Tara and I moved to Virginia Beach in 1986. Literally, Peter, everything we owned was in a little U-Haul trailer, not the big one, the little one. And I needed to work. I didn't have enough money to get through graduate school. I started working for a local automobile dealer there. We just hit it off. A dear friend and mentor to this day. And then in a deep, deep recession of 1991, Gulf War, the first one, a Ford store became available, and frankly, nobody wanted it. It was losing too much money. It was at the wrong end of town. And Ford Motor Credit stepped up, gave us a tremendous amount of financing, and we were able to get started. And it's been a wonderful journey. And to be able to say, to look at someone and say, you're hired. I've had that. That's been a great joy of my life. And I know what we need to do to get our economy moving again. And quite frankly, the direction of this administration is not the direction we need to go. And I'm proud of our party for what we're doing on job creation.
Back to your calls on President Obama's Afghanistan plan. Myron is a Republican in Philadelphia. You're on the air.
Yes, good morning, gentlemen.
Morning, Myron.
Morning. I just want to say real quick, we actually had a discussion about this at a miscellaneous forum at a town hall meeting in my town the other night. And I've basically been saying that we should have withdrew for a couple of years now. And when I said that, everybody just basically gave me the bird stare, and I was like, "You mad, bro?"
We're going to move on to Ronald in Cincinnati on our independent line. Ronald, you there?
Yes, I'm here.
All right.
Okay, Mr. Representative, you seem to forget. The war was started before Obama. You left Obama with a mess. He's got to clean it up. You don't like the way he does it. You filibuster everything else. So you can sit there and say, well, you made your life the way it is. I'm a Vietnam vet. You are a vet. But still yet, you seem to have lost your principles because war is your last resort, not your first resort. And that doesn't seem to be the game of the Republicans. And then you go around the world, you want to press ideas on other people, and you know they're going to rebel. Like what damage you did in Iraq, people ain't going to love you. How can you? They lost family members. They lost their own businesses. They lost their houses and their homes. Okay, then you're in Afghanistan. Yeah, you went after Osama bin Laden. Well, he's gone. But then you went in there. You didn't stay there. You didn't devote your time there. You decided to say, let's go somewhere else and play games. Well, playing games has consequences. And the officer corps, as I understand it, the officer corps becomes politicized the higher it goes up in the chain. So sometimes these generals can be influenced by politics.
All right, Ronald.
Ronald, well, you mentioned you're a Vietnam vet. Those were painful and difficult years, and thank you for serving. As I listen to your question, I'm really not sure, that we're in disagreement. I can give you a very practical example of this. I mean, look at Libya. I think you were being critical of maybe a pro-interventionist, bias toward what they now refer to. We used to call it combat. Now they call it kinetic engagement. But I'm not an isolationist. But in our most recent military activity, Libya, I from the very start, I objected to that. I do not believe we should have engaged in that. It was unwise and unnecessary for us to open up a third front in yet another Muslim nation. And there was no imminent threat to American life. The American homeland was not threatened. Not one of the three criteria of the War Powers Act was met. There was no declaration of war. There was no statutory authority. And American forces and American itself was not under threat or imminent threat or hadn't been attacked. So on May the 4th, just shortly after the first Tomahawk missiles were launched into Tripoli, I introduced a bill that's very simple, one sentence. It just simply states that that none of these funds shall be used to fund what we know as Operation Odyssey Dawn. So, when you say that we shouldn't have a bias toward military action, that the Americans should come to a sober, thoughtful, deliberate decision, and ideally together, as to when we go to war. And that has not taken place with this president and Libya. And so I'm opposed to it, have been from the very beginning. Thank you. Thank you for your call.
Will the House be voting on the two Libyan resolutions tomorrow?
Well, the actual control of the floor and what comes to the floor principally is driven by the majority leader. And it's my understanding that it will, but there's always it's always fluid up there, Peter. You never quite know. I mean, they put out a schedule and then things do change. But I am, at least at this point, unless and until some other legislation preempts mine. I mean, the Speaker has that privilege. He can go right to the front of the line. But it's my understanding that I entered into I didn't even know this, but I entered into the congressional record this bill before anyone else. I mean, it wasn't my intent. I just felt very strongly about it. I told my staff, this bill, right now, I want to put a flag in the ground that I do not agree with this action. That bill is there, and also I intend to introduce as an amendment to any Department of Defense appropriations, the same bill just in the form of an amendment. So it's going to require a vote, up or down. on the House floor.
The last call for Congressman Rigell comes from Titusville,